Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. Hoping to find you in good health. Hopefully, you are taking all the precautionary measures in order to stay safe and have already set a proper study routine. If not, then do it as soon as possible. Do it now because now is the high time. Kindly prioritize your tasks on daily basis. Your first priority should be your studies at any cost. As a reminder, need to tell you that you can watch and listen to the lectures of all the subjects on your portal, college web-based portal, as well as on college's YouTube channel, namely MIS.ABHCGN in capital letters. Moving towards our lecture, kindly you should keep a copy and pen in your hands in order to note down each and every concept, as there could be numerous descriptions which are not available in your book. Today, we are going to start with our Introduction to Computer Science lecture. Let's begin with our tour of this world of technology. This would surely teleport you in the magical world of innovation, where every click would feel like an open sesame, where every transmission of data over the wireless medium would feel like flowing in the air, resembling a magical flying rug, where every execution by the CPU feels like a magical wand functioning. You must be familiar with Harry Potter series, so you can easily relate with these similes or metaphors. So, let's step in. The aims and objectives of our today's class would be to study about the basics of a computer, its overview, to study about the basic operations performed by a computer machine, primary hardware components involved in carrying out those basic operations, concept of computing devices, and last but not the least, we would study about the conventional classifications of a computer. Moving towards our first objective, an overview of a computer. First question which should come to your mind is, what is a computer? A computer is an electronic programmable machine which is used to solve different kinds of problems. If we deconstruct this definition, it means that any device whose operation is controlled by a stored program inside it. Computer is an electronic device whose functions or operations or activities are controlled by an operating system software or by an operating system program stored inside it. Operating system like Windows, different versions of Windows operating system, Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, and many other versions of Apple's computers, operating systems like Macintosh, etc. So, need to tell you that these operating systems basically control the functionality and performance of a computer, and they are stored inside a computer. So, there can be any other operating systems too. Second part of this definition indicates that computer is used to solve different problems or tasks of the user, like if user wants to search something, a computer allows browsing. If a user wants to create an electronic document, it allows the user to use different softwares for that purpose on the platform of a computer, like in order to create electronic documents, a user can use MS Word and likewise other softwares. If a user wants to perform mathematical calculations, it allows the user to use MS Excel software to perform calculations. If a user wants to draw something, it allows the user to use MS Paint, Adobe Photoshop, Corel Draw, etc. These are basically graphic based softwares. So if you want to send files or data to someone, it allows the user to use email options. Likewise, a computer allows the user to perform hundreds of tasks in order to solve different problems. To perform any kind of activity or task assigned by the user, a computer machine takes input from the user, processes or executes that input data coming from the user at very high speed. After processing or executing that data, stores the results in some storage space or memory space for later use, and produces results by displaying them as output on some output device. You must have noticed concepts like input, processing, storage, and output. These are the four basic operations performed by a computer. That is basically our second objective, that a computer accepts data, processes it, produces results or output in the form of useful information, and stores the results for later use. So this shows us a glimpse of the four basic operations. First operation, input operation. An input operation, a computer accepts data for processing from input devices like keyboard, joystick or some mouse or scanner, etc. Processing operation, that is the second basic operation performed by a computer. When an input from any input device goes to a CPU, a central processing unit, to a microprocessor of a computer, that CPU or microprocessor starts processing that data or starts executing that data. But question is, what is an execution or what is processing of data? When CPU applies some instructions on the data, when CPU applies some instructions on the input, this is called as execution or processing of that data. Let me give you an example that would make this concept clearer. Suppose you are using MS Word software for creating an electronic document. You apply certain options or instructions from MS Word software interface so that you can change the layout or size or font style of your data. When CPU applies instructions or options on your data one by one in a sequence, this shows that CPU is now executing or processing that data. Likewise, if you are performing some calculations using MS Excel software, CPU performs arithmetic and logical operations on your data. If you would choose any arithmetic based instructions or options like addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, etc. from MS Excel, from MS Excel, uh, your data along with the chosen instructions goes to the CPU. A CPU has a special part dedicated for the execution of arithmetic-based tasks. ALU stands for Arithmetic and Logic Unit. ALU is that part of CPU which performs arithmetic and logical operations on data. Continuing with the example, as data along with arithmetic instructions goes to the CPU, assume that data consists of values like 10 and 20, and instruction to be applied on data is of addition or plus. Now, ALU part of a CPU receives these values and instruction and applies this plus or addition instruction on these values 10 and 20. This shows now CPU is executing the data along with instruction by applying that instruction on the data or values. After execution, the result generated by the ALU part of CPU would be 30. As told earlier, CPU also performs logical operations along with arithmetic operations. For example, if this time you apply any logical operation on your MS Excel data, for example, you want to solve any mathematical execution like x is greater than y or not. You want to prove that x is greater than y or not. Point to note here is that greater than symbol in maths or less than symbol, greater than or is equal to symbol, less than or is equal to symbols, or simple is equal to symbol, these are all used for logical comparisons in equations, for comparing one value with another, that if one value is greater or less than the other one. So the values which the user wants to compare along with any logical instruction would be taken as an input by the computer, transfers the value based data and instructions to the computer. Again, ALU part of the CPU, arithmetic and logic unit part of the CPU, handles the logical operations. Let's say this time user wants to compare x is greater than y or not. As I told you earlier, x is supposedly assigned a value of 2, while y has been assigned a value of 5. Now, ALU compares x and y, means it compares 2 with 5. ALU applies this greater than logical instruction, greater than logical symbol on 2 and 5 for comparison between them, means ALU is now executing the data and instruction by applying the greater than instruction on the data or values 2 and 5. After execution, ALU produces results as false, means x is not greater than y, 2 is not greater than 5. So the equation would be concluded as false. The result generated by the CPU, the result generated by the ALU part of the CPU would produce this result as false. Okay, Ji. Let's take another example of a logical operation other than maths based instructions. You must have at least used or seen an MS Word software. Suppose you created a document through the use of MS Word and that document has a length of 50 pages. You want to search a specific or certain word among those 50 pages, or you want to search a certain sentence in that document of 50 pages length. But actually it's not possible to read all 50 pages every time, as it would consume a lot of time. So you can choose find and replace or find option from the home tab of MS Word software. Now, as you can see that option on the screen visible, enter the word or sentence, your required word or sentence which you want to search inside that text box of find and replace dialog box. ALU of CPU compares each and every letter, each and every word of the document one by one in a sequence with your required, with your entered word or sentence which you have entered in that find text box. When the comparison matches, your required word or sentence gets matched with the word or sentence written in a document on a page by the CPU. ALU part of the CPU highlights that word or sentence located on a certain page after successful completion of comparison. Here, the logical operation was performed by ALU, while the logical instruction used was is equal to. Means if a word is equal to your required word matches or is equal to a word found on a page, or if a word matches another word inside a document after comparison, ALU highlights that word. Storage operation. In storage operation, a computer stores information or processed or executed results inside a storage device. When CPU executes data, the result or generated output is stored into any permanent storage device like hard disk, etc. for later use. As told earlier, the result of arithmetic operation, which was 30, and the result of logical operation, which was false, both results will be stored in a permanent storage space where those results can be saved permanently. Now, the fourth basic operation performed by a computer is an output operation. In output operation, story begins from input. When an input goes to a CPU or microprocessor for execution, after execution by the CPU, generated results or output goes to a storage device for storage. But story doesn't end here. How the user would come to know about the result of his input? Of course, through the output displayed on the monitor screen. So, after storage of the result, CPU displays that output on the monitor screen so the user can come to know about the output. So far, we have discussed the four basic operations performed by a computer. However, it is also very essential to talk about the devices which actually support the working of these operations, without which these four basic operations can't be performed, and those devices are input devices, primary storage devices, central processing unit or microprocessor, and output devices. here you can count in as an additional part secondary storage devices. So input devices, let's talk about input devices. As you already know, user gives input to the computer, enters data and instructions into the computer through input devices, which are mainly and most commonly keyboard and mouse, as well as trackball, joystick. When somebody plays games, joystick is basically at that time used, as well as touch screen, etc. After input devices, now we talk about primary storage devices. Primary storage devices are also called as main memory, main storage, or RAM. Basically, RAM stands for random access memory. RAM is the main memory or primary memory of a computer. RAM actually stores data and instructions which are currently in use by the user. RAM stores currently active programs being used by the user, but a primary storage device or a RAM also stores these programs, softwares, files and folders, any kind of data and instructions on temporary basis, not permanently. RAM stores the data till the computer is active, till the computer is on. When computer gets switched off, all the data in main memory gets lost. That's why it is called as volatile memory or temporary memory. If we deconstruct this concept, we can say that after receiving input from the user, computer stores this input temporarily inside RAM. Take an example. Suppose you are working again on MS Word software, writing data on electronic pages. Side by side, you are applying certain options or instructions on that data. That data, along with instructions, is continuously getting loaded or getting stored into the RAM. Now question arises is why data or instructions get loaded or stored into RAM from input devices. Why not in some other memory space? Or why can't data or instructions go from an input device directly to CPU? Fact is, random access memory or RAM stores data or instructions or keeps data or instructions loaded inside it for a purpose, and that is for CPU's execution. CPU or microprocessor always fetches or grabs data from RAM and then performs execution on that data or instructions grabbed or fetched from the RAM. The input given to the RAM can be from a keyboard or from any other input device or from some memory device. That input goes to RAM. From RAM, that input, either data or instructions, goes to the CPU for execution. CPU. CPU stands for Central Processing Unit. CPU is also called as a microprocessor. CPU is the heart and brain of the computer. It consists of 4 parts, namely ALU, Arithmetic and Logic Unit. Second one, CU, Control Unit. Third one, Buffer, can also be called as a register. And last part is L1, Cache. We will study all these parts in detail in further chapters. As we already know, CPU performs all types of data processing operations or executions by applying any kind of instruction on a data. If we talk about CPU's structure, a microprocessor is basically, or a CPU is basically, a semiconductor silicon made chip, or we can say that a CPU or microprocessor is basically an integrated circuit on which millions of diodes, transistors and resistors exist. A software or a program consists of a set of instructions or options. So a CPU executes these instructions. We can say that CPU is basically executing a program or a software. CPU has a special part, namely ALU, as we have talked about it earlier. This ALU part performs arithmetic and logical operations inside a computer. CPU chip or microprocessor chip is basically attached on a motherboard. This chip is few inches or few centimeters in size, and it takes very less space on a motherboard. As discussed earlier, CPU performs processing and execution of data by taking input from an input device. Its different parts support the execution process, while a specific part, ALU, performs execution, arithmetic and logical executions and operations. Then CPU generates results after execution of the data and produces the output. CPU basically fetches, decodes, executes and stores the instructions and data. As CPU fetches the instructions, as we already said that CPU fetches instructions and data from the RAM for execution. So as CPU fetches any instructions from RAM for execution, when CPU fetches these instructions and data, CPU first of all decodes that instruction, interprets these instructions. Decodes mean CPU converts the original instructions into binary form. Question is, why a CPU would need to do decoding? Reason is, computer doesn't understand any language of the world. This is a very important concept. I'm repeating it again. A computer doesn't understand any language of the world, neither English nor Urdu, etc., etc. You must be thinking that why we enter English-based data or English-based options or instructions into our computer if a computer doesn't understand any language. Rule of thumb is, when we enter any data in any language or click on any option on our screen, computer's CPU converts that instruction or option present in English or in some symbolic form, in the form of some icon or in any other language, into binary form, into some binary code. Even if we write some data on our computer in any language, CPU converts that data into binary form or binary code or into machine language. Computer only understands binary language or machine language or binary code. A binary code or binary language consists of only two numbers, 0 and 1, as binary means 2. Moreover, every type of data and instruction converted into binary language looks like a code based on zeros and ones. For example, if you enter a letter A as an input into your computer, it would not get stored into the computer. Rather, the CPU would convert that letter A into binary code, and the binary code of letter A is 100001. We would further study these conversions into chapter number 4. Instructions present inside a software or on a computer's window would be treated likewise by the CPU. It would convert every type of instruction into binary code. After conversion of instructions or data into binary form, CPU applies that decoded instruction or instruction converted into binary form on the data and executes that data. After that it stores the generated results. After CPU, the fourth type of primary hardware component is output devices. Before moving towards the output devices, before discussing the output devices, do note down that results generated by the CPU are stored into some storage devices too for later use. Anyhow, output devices are used to receive output from the computer for displaying output on the screen. Output devices are monitors, colored monitors like LCDs, LEDs, or older ones like CRTs. Monitors show the results in soft form, while printers are also output devices which show the results in hard form or produce hard copy. Now, moving towards our next topic, that is computing devices. Let's talk about computing devices. A common misconception is that only computer is a computing device. In fact, every electronic or digital device which has the ability to perform different operations or calculations can be called as a computing device. For example, an ATM machine, a digital juicer, a digital washing machine, a digital clock, a digital microwave oven, an electronic toy, smartphones. All of these digital or electronic devices are basically computing devices performing specific tasks. As you press some option on any computing device or give any instruction to a computing device, it performs certain operations like number one, as when you press an option on your digital washing machine, it gets switched on and starts swishing the clothes in clockwise or anti-clockwise direction inside that washing machine in order to remove stains or dirt from your clothes. When you enter your ATM PIN card into an ATM machine and enter the amount you want to withdraw from your account, ATM machine takes your PIN card, ATM PIN card and amount as an input, as an instruction, and withdraws your cash as per your entered amount. So this way ATM machine performs banking transactions automatically in a computing device, as a computing device. Likewise, the computer of a digital clock sets the time for alarm and manages your calendar as per user's instructions. As the related options or instructions are built in or present inside these computing devices. Important thing to remember here is every computing device can't perform each and every type of operation. For example, digital clock can't perform money transactions like an ATM machine. An ATM machine cannot perform an audio or video based tasks playing like a smartphone, and a smartphone cannot wash clothes like a digital washing machine. So every computing device is basically designed to perform specific tasks, is designed to perform specific operations. Every computing device is programmed to perform certain tasks. Every computing device is a programmable device, means it is being controlled by an internally stored operating system. Some computing devices which perform very basic computing tasks or very few tasks like electronic toys or digital clocks or digital microwave oven or digital washing machine or an ATM machine, etc. The computing devices are controlled, or their operations or tasks are controlled by internally stored firmware software instead of an operating system. In computing devices, all the circuitry or functions or activities are basically controlled by a firmware software, while in advanced computers like supercomputers, mainframe computers, mini computers, microcomputers, all the activities or operations of a computer device is basically being controlled by an operating system instead of a firmware software. We can say that more advanced computing devices which can perform a variety of computing tasks or operations, tablets, smartphones, desktop computers, laptops, as told you earlier, they have their own proper operating system stored inside these machines, and these proper operating systems basically control all the activities of those devices. Firmware software is basically used in basic computing devices. Firmware is embedded into the circuitry of these computing devices and controls all the basic operations of these devices. But I would tell you a thing as a reminder that it's not like that advanced computing devices like desktop computers or laptops or tabs, etc., do not have any firmware. That statement is not true. As told you earlier, that advanced computing devices have their own proper operating system which controls their all activities, but these advanced computing devices also have an underlying firmware software embedded in their circuitry. They have firmware along with an operating system. In these advanced computing devices, operating system software performs all the main activities or tasks of a computer's operating system, works in coordination with the CPU or central processing unit, but firmware software also performs some basic actions inside an advanced computing device. A firmware in computers performs clock settings, controls clock settings, and controls some basic configurations of input and output devices, etc. But the most important function of a firmware inside a computer is that it is the first thing, it is the first program, it is the first software which gets activated when a computer is turned on. And most important point is that after getting activated, the firmware fetches the operating system installed in a hard disk. As your operating system is always stored in your permanent memory, it is stored permanently in your hard disk. So when the firmware gets activated, it fetches your operating system from the hard disk and loads your operating system into RAM on temporary basis for controlling all the other activities or functions of the computer, so that the other softwares or programs can run on the platform of an operating system which is temporarily loaded into the RAM. So a firmware software resides in ROM chip or resides in BIOS chip, and that ROM or BIOS chip is basically attached on a motherboard. So we are done with our basic overview of a computer system. We are done with the 4 basic operations of a computer system. We are done with the primary hardware components. We are done with the basics of computing devices. Now we'll move towards the conventional classifications of a computer. Computers are classified on the basis of their physical size, speed and cost, etc. Based on these factors, computers are classified into 4 categories: supercomputers, mainframe computers, mini computers and microcomputers. If we talk about the generations, these are not actually included in your course, but if we talk about the generations, we are currently using 5th or 6th generation computers. If we talk about the purpose, we are using general purpose computers. If we talk about the technology, nowadays we are using digital computers, and in digital computers, if we talk about the size and capacity, if we differentiate computers on the basis of their size, speed, storage capacity and cost, we are using supercomputers, mainframe computers, mini computers and microcomputers. So in 5th generation we are using general purpose computers. In general purpose computers we are using specifically digital computers. In digital computers we are nowadays specifically using these 4 types of computers. So the first computer is supercomputer. Supercomputers were developed in 1976. If we talk about their size, generally the size of computer determines the processing abilities of a computer. Larger computers have higher processing abilities, larger computers have higher processing speed, while smaller ones offer better experience for personal computing. These computers are the largest in terms of size. They can occupy anything from a few feet to hundreds of feet. They are the most expensive computers present in this world. They are expensive than mainframe computers, they are expensive than mini computers, they are expensive than microcomputers. If we talk about their operating system, some supercomputers are very powerful computers. They cannot use common operating system like Windows or the operating systems of Apple computers. They use specially designed operating system called as Linux, or basically they are Linux based systems, or they use Linux based operating systems, Linux, Linux. If we talk about their execution speed, they are the most powerful in terms of speed and accuracy. They are the most high performing computers in the world. A supercomputer is a computer with a high level of performance compared to other computers. The actual performance of a supercomputer is measured in flops, 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 instead of millions of instructions per second or trillions of instructions per second. They can actually bring up their processing numbers up to the quadrillion. The quadrillion is 1,000 trillions, which means that a supercomputer can actually execute quadrillion instructions, 1,000 trillion instructions per second. Supercomputer is capable of executing 1,000 trillion instructions or 1 quadrillion instructions per second, which is actually calculated in floating point operations per second, FLOPS, flops, which stands for floating point operations per second. A supercomputer has thousands, sometimes millions of interconnected processors or CPUs inside it. A supercomputer has, as told you earlier, it has thousands or millions of interconnected CPUs or microprocessors inside it. So a supercomputer can perform parallel computing. Thousands or millions of its CPUs can perform the tasks simultaneously by working at the same time, by getting activated at the same time, in order to make processing faster. Supercomputers can execute a single program faster than a mainframe computer, because a program would be divided into bits and pieces, and all the CPUs or microprocessors of a supercomputer would start working on that program at the same time. Each CPU or processor would get a bit or part of that program. A supercomputer can calculate in 1 second what would take you 6 billion years to calculate. Supercomputers are not intended for everyday common tasks. A supercomputer channels all its power into executing a few programs as fast as possible. The word length of a supercomputer is 64 to 96 bits. Now the question is, what is a memory word? As we say, a computer executes quadrillion, a supercomputer executes quadrillion instructions per second, while the memory word size of a supercomputer generally is about 64 to 96 bits. The memory word actually indicates the largest value a supercomputer can process or execute in a single instruction, and the size of a memory address. The main indication of the word size is how much memory the microprocessor, or how much memory the CPU can address or process at a time. For example, if a computer can execute quadrillion instructions per second, let's suppose millions of instructions per second, and that computer has 32 bits in its one word, means that one computer is able to process or execute an instruction of 32 bits at a time. If it executes 1 million instructions at a time, that shows it's executing 1 million instructions of 32 bit size at a time. One execution is equal to 1 million instructions, and each instruction is equal to 32 bits. So this shows that a computer which is able to execute 1 million instructions can actually execute these instructions of 32 bits. The size of each instruction would be of 32 bits each. If a supercomputer can execute 1 quadrillion instructions per second, if a supercomputer can execute 1 quadrillion instructions per second, its each instruction could be of 64 to 96 bits size. That means a supercomputer executes 1 quadrillion instructions, and each instruction would be of 64 to 96 bit size. Supercomputers play an important role in the field of computation and are used for intensive computation tasks in various fields, including quantum mechanics, weather forecasting, climate research, oil and gas exploration, molecular modeling, and physical simulations. Supercomputers are mainly used for designing and controlling of complicated machines such as rockets and fighter planes. Supercomputers are also used in nuclear research and weather forecasting. In Pakistan, supercomputers are used in many organizations like Atomic Energy Research Center and Missile Control Systems. The example of supercomputer is Cray 1. The manufacturers of supercomputers are Cray Inc., DOT, and IBM. Both of these manufacturers are American based. Second type is mainframe computers. Mainframe computers were developed after supercomputers. Mainframe is the second largest computer. It is large in size and also very expensive. It is expensive than the mini and micro computers, but it is less expensive than the supercomputers. Mainframes are large sized computers. They are equally powerful but fell short in terms of computation ability as compared to supercomputer. They can fill a room, a large sized room or a small sized room. They can also act as server computers. That's why they can also use Linux or Unix based operating systems, or Windows 2000 or Windows 2003 server based versions can be used as operating system on a mainframe computer. If we talk about the networking means that how computers are connected inside a network with one another. As said already, that mainframe computers can act as servers, can act as a server, S-E-R-V-E-R. A server is a computer which is the head computer, or which controls all the other computers inside a network, and inside a network all the computers are actually attached with a server. Server provides its facilities to the client computers, to the attached computers, and fulfills their requests and performs their operations. So mainframe computers can act as servers, enabling thousands of attached computers or thousands of connected computers inside a network. With mainframe computers, thousands of computers can be attached inside a network, and those attached or client computers can access the resources of mainframe server computer at the same time. Mainframe computers can handle massive amounts of data going in and out, coming from and coming to the attached computers simultaneously. They are resilient computers as they are capable of operating for over 10 years without failing. A mainframe computer channelizes all its power to execute several programs simultaneously, or it has the power to execute the programs of several or multiple computers simultaneously at the same time. Mainframe supports more simultaneous programs as compared to supercomputer. Supercomputer actually channelizes its power to execute one program and divides that one program among its thousands of CPUs, while as compared to supercomputer, a mainframe computer channelizes its power to execute multiple programs by dividing those multiple programs among its multiple CPUs. A mainframe computer can also support thousands of processors, or a mainframe computer has thousands of microprocessors or CPUs attached inside it. In some cases, mainframe computers can span up to 50 years, or their lifespan can be up to 50 years after proper installation. The word size of a mainframe computer is 64 bits, around 64 bits. A mainframe computer can execute trillions of instructions per second. If we talk specifically about that, a mainframe computer can execute 1 trillion instructions per second. As we talked about a supercomputer can execute around 1,000 trillion instructions, while a mainframe computer can execute only 1 trillion instructions per second, and each instruction would be of a maximum 64-bit size. If we talk about the uses of mainframe computers are used in large corporations, banks, universities, and scientific laboratories. A mainframe computer usually occupies a large room, as told you earlier, because it includes large number of peripheral devices of different types. Some examples of mainframe computers are IBM Z Enterprise System EC12, IBM Z Enterprise 196 Z196, HP 16500 series. These examples and uses are already written in your book. You can consult your book for that. Moving towards our third type of computer, which is mini computers. A mini computer came into the market in 1960s, sold at much cheaper price than the supercomputers as compared to the mainframe computers. Mini computers are larger than the microcomputers but are smaller than the super or mainframe computers. Mini computers are powerful and expensive than the microcomputers but less powerful and less expensive than the super or mainframe computers. If you talk about their size, mini computer and its peripherals or cabling equipments can usually fill a small room. In some cases, mini computer can also act as a server for small sized networks. It can handle hundreds of connected users, or it can handle hundreds of connected computers inside a network. As talked earlier, a mainframe computer can handle thousands of connected computers at a time inside a network, while a mini computer can handle hundreds of connected computers at a time inside a network. That means, which shows that it can act as a server in a small sized network of 100 computers or of hundreds of computers. Simple Windows operating systems, versions of Windows operating systems, or Windows 2003 and 2001 means different versions of Windows operating system can be installed on mini computers. As said earlier, they can fill in a small room. They can usually take up one or few inches rack cabinets compared with large mainframe computers that could fill big sized rooms. They are also known as mid-range computers, and they became popular in 1990s but commercially came into market in 1960s. The first mini computer was unveiled commercially in 1967. A mini computer can execute billions of instructions per second. Mainframe computers were able to execute trillions of instructions per second. Supercomputers were able to execute quadrillion thousands of 1,000 trillion instructions, while mini computers are able to execute billions of instructions per second. And if we talk about the word size of each instruction, or the word size which CPU or processor of a mini computer can execute or process at a time, the word size would be 32 bits per word. Means a mini computer is able to execute billions of instructions per second, and each instruction can be maximum of 32-bit size. As talked about, that mini computer can act as a server in small sized network of hundreds of computers. Mini computer is a multi-processing computer system capable of supporting from up to 4 computers to around 200 computers simultaneously in a network. Mini computers are widely used in industrial processing control units, scientific research and small business applications. Examples of mini computer are IBM System 360 and HP 3000. Now, the last type is microcomputers. Microcomputer is the smallest and least expensive computer of all the types as compared to supercomputers, as compared to mainframe computers, and as compared to mini computers. Microcomputers were developed after 1990s and they are designed for individual use, for personal use, and for applications. One and only one user can use a microcomputer at a time, can execute its applications and programs, files and folders and data and instructions individually by sitting on a computer. Microcomputers are called as microcomputers because inside a microcomputer exists a microprocessor or a CPU. Microcomputers can be dual core. They can be of Core i3, they can be of Core i5, they can be of Core i7. Means a microcomputer can have 2 cores or 2 microprocessors or 2 CPUs inside it. A microcomputer can have 3 microprocessors or CPUs inside it for processing or execution. A microcomputer can have respectively 5 or 7 microprocessors or CPUs installed inside it for execution or processing. Maximum in market microcomputers which are basically available can have a range of around 7 chips or 7 CPUs or 7 microprocessors. A microcomputer includes a microprocessor or multiple microprocessors up to 7, maximum 7. Can have its own memory, temporary memory and permanent memory like RAM or hard disk. It has minimal input-output circuitry mounted on a single printed circuit board, that is motherboard. It has various components attached on a motherboard. The previous two microcomputers, mainframes and mini computers, were comparatively much larger, hard to maintain and more expensive than the microcomputers. Microcomputers have a small memory. They have less processing power because they have less number of microcomputers or CPUs as compared to mini or super or mainframe computers. Commonly they are known as personal computers. You can call your microcomputers as personal computers, and they became popular around 1970s. By mid 1990s they became the de facto computer of choice for office use as well as for home use. They ultimately gave birth to smaller devices or gadgets, micro gadgets for businesses, for homes. Categories of personal computers or categories of microcomputers include desktop computers, portable computers like laptops or tabs, and wearable computers like digital watches, etc. The word length of a microcomputer is around 8 to 32 bits. Does not require the user to have special skills in order to operate it. It has its own keyboard, mouse, a monitor and a system unit. If we talk about the uses, microcomputers are commonly used in almost every field of life. For example, these computers are commonly used at home, small offices, businesses, education, etc. A microcomputer can easily fit on a desktop if we talk about its desktop category, and similarly if we talk about its portable category, a laptop computer can fit in a briefcase or you can carry it in your hands. Some examples of microcomputers are IBM ThinkPad, Toshiba Satellite series, Dell series, HP series and Apple series. One more point, and very important point, that microcomputers can execute millions of instructions per second, as supercomputers are able to execute 1,000 trillion instructions or quadrillion instructions per second. After supercomputers, mainframe computers are able to execute trillions of instructions per second, around 1 trillion instructions, and many computers are able to execute billions of instructions. Likewise, microcomputers are able to execute millions of instructions, and each instruction would be of 8 to 32 bit size. So this is the end of our lecture. In today's lecture, we covered the simple overview of a computer system, and the 4 basic operations performed by a computer system, and the primary hardware components which actually support those 4 basic operations. And we studied computing devices, a bit about them, and we talked about the 4 conventional types of a computer: supercomputer, mainframe computer, mini computer, and a microcomputer. So winding up our lecture, just last but not the least, I would like to say that kindly do note down all these concepts in your book, because there are many concepts, there are many descriptions which are not available in your book. And inshallah we will soon try to connect with one another on our video conferencing based software. I'm just waiting to let you settle down, and inshallah, Allah Hafiz, we will join a live interactive session soon. Okay ji, stay blessed, take care of your health. Allah Hafiz, till then.